This is crazy.
It's landed. Look at that. In the same spot that it launched from. That's mental. I don't think.
All right, hey guys. So this is episode 2 with Krishn, the flip side. That's the name we came up with. We actually came up with that after episode 1. The idea is, right now I'm doing the entrepreneur route. Krishn's doing the 9 to 5 side route. So it's, the flip side. You guys get to see what the other perspective is. So that's sort of the theory behind the name. Krishn sort of came up with that, so he could tell you more about that. But yeah, this is episode 2. Krishn, how's your week been?
Good, man. Good. Happy to be back. Episode 2 already. Only 48 episodes to go until half a century. We got this.
I'm keen. That's like 50 episodes a year. 52. Maybe we'll bump it up to 2 a week in the future.
I think, we'll see how we go. We'll take it week by week, but the flip side. Get ready for it.
What's your thoughts on the name Krishn? The flip side.
I think the way you thought about it was a good idea, having the contrast between the two and trying to find a good metaphor for it. It was so hard the way trying to find a good metaphor. We racked our brains until we're going back and forth until the flip side just works, because it's literally the flip side of what we each other do. I like it. I think it's a good podcast name as well. Like you said, it rolls off the tongue. No, everything's going our way. Too good.
Yeah, I reckon it sounds good. Welcome to the flip side. It just rolls off the tongue. But yeah, dude, Jeff Bezos hit 200 freaking billion this year. I mean, no, now. That's crazy.
I saw that. My God, what? The guy's actually crazy. The first person in the world to be valued $200 billion. That is ridiculous. He's only going to go up as well. There was a projection of his to reach become the world's first trillionaire by 2023, I think.
Damn, that's insane. And it's crazy. I felt like yesterday that he hit 100 billion. Because
Amazon's only going to keep growing as well. It's literally a meteoric rise. There's no way that it can't keep growing. And he's just crazy. I just can't believe it. Especially because Amazon are starting to delve into different things now with Amazon Prime Video, increasing its popularity. You got their originals competing against Netflix originals, and their originals are doing well. Some of their originals are on par, if not better quality than Netflix's originals. And it's the documentaries they have coming out. It's really interesting. They have one coming out for a football club, Tottenham Hotspur. It's an insight as to what they do. He's only going to keep going up.
Because dude, I was doing research about what they're doing, and Jeff Bezos, he has Amazon Pay, he has things that lends out money, he has Amazon Cash Go, he's literally building he has Amazon Insurance, he's literally building a fucking bank. He's doing everything, fucking vertical integration, taking every single piece of the pie.
But on that, on the topic of vertical integration, as well as that, have you seen Amazon rolling out stores in where I think it's in England? There's a few in England, maybe a couple in America, where it's essentially completely contactless. You go in.
Yeah, I've seen those. Insane.
But on the topic of that, it's one of those things where it's literally a grocery store. You go in and you have Amazon Go store. You go in and you just pick items off the shelf. That's ridiculous. That is actually ridiculous.
Dude, and the same thing is you pick things off and somehow the camera catches you and you just walk out with it. What if you accidentally pick up 2-3 things? It somehow just counts everything. It's insane.
That's the thing. So when you have, these sort of stores integrating extremely high levels of technology in it, there's always going to be those complications with the less technology savvy consumers who would just essentially, they're used to going into the local Woolies or whatever the local supermarket is, they're grabbing it, taking it to the counter, purchasing it. Here, obviously, like you said, if you accidentally take a few more items than you need, or if you accidentally do this, it's going to overcharge you. I feel there's going to be a lot more, say, complaints or issues with that as well. But I mean, that's the thing with new technology. With each new invention or each new prospect comes a lot more loopholes, etc.
The saved money from not having all these checkout people far outweigh the small percent of people being able to somehow hack the system, and all those little hacks. AI is gonna get so smart to just catch them. But dude, freaking 27 stores already. That's insane. They're taking over retail.
So they got stores. Okay, so it's just primarily in America at the moment, California, New York.
Exactly.
Okay, so like the big cities in America, yeah, dude. But that, yeah, like you're right. Like for some people, like essentially the cash, the cash out chick, the cash. What do they call it? Checkout chick. Yeah, the checkout chick. If this continues, if Amazon succeed with this, like they're just taking over. Like,
I know, dude. And on that topic, I was talking about with my friends about human evolution or natural selection. You know how like the strong stay and the weak die. Literally, that with when AI comes in and when there's like truck drivers become obsolete, checkout become obsolete, delivery people become obsolete with drones delivering things. It's going to be like Darwinism. Like the weak would die, and only the smart people can like survive in the new world. It sucks, but like that's what's going to happen.
that's
Natural
yeah.
selection.
Natural selection is going to happen, but at the same time, like I think we kind of discussed it a little bit last week, right? It's like things are always changing. Human evolution is going to continue changing. AI, the implementation of AI on our daily lives, it's coming. Like look at Amazon Go, it's here. Essentially, it's here, right? And if you are just going to like sit back and be like, oh, it's taking over, and not doing anything about it, not go about your own way to try and upskill yourself in the sense that, okay, what can I do about it? How can I take advantage of it or try and get ahead? And I'm not saying obviously go to uni or like, study somewhere, study at a tertiary institution, etc. But maybe just like, just have a look around, see what the opportunities are around you in terms of trying to be able to get on top of it, because it's just going to keep changing. It's just going to keep changing.
Oh, dude, what I was talking about was like, it's insane that we learned and mastered calculus when we were 16. At 16 years old, we mastered calculus. Like that took some like the guy who invented it, I don't know what his name is, like friggin' his whole life to like come up with calculus, and we crammed it in our brains. We were force fed it by like the schools to learn it by the age of 16. That's insane. And like literally, we've grown faster than the rate of like evolution as well. Like people, like no wonder everyone's like having mental issues, because our generation is just growing way too fast.
That's the thing. And dude, it's so funny that you mentioned that. Like we're continuously growing, right? We essentially compound the knowledge that we have, that we've built, and the foundations that we have. So we compound on that knowledge, and we continue to like create new ideas and new ways of thinking, philosophy, etc. Right? And like you said with the calculus thing, it kind of reminds me. I don't know if you've seen it. I just started a new anime recently, Doctor Stone. Have you heard of Doctor Stone?
I've heard it. Is there like one or two people alive and everyone's stones or something?
Dude, so essentially the premise of the show is a little bit obviously crazy, but the essence of it is he's essentially, everyone just gets turned to stone, right? Humanity gets turned to stone, existence gets turned to stone. Now, two people are remaining in the world, in the sense that two people wake up first out of the entire human civilization, one of which is a scientist, right? So one of them is a scientist. So he's obviously, so it was a modern age, right? So smartphones, etc. And he wakes up in like literally prehistoric times, like essentially, wildlife everywhere, it's overgrown trees, etc. Right? Like it's back to square one. And he takes the knowledge that he has and essentially needs to build it from the ground up. And like think about it like that way, right? So he has all that knowledge and he's got all that compounded knowledge, and he started from the ground up. Like in that sense, it's like a head start, right? So like going back onto what you were saying, how we're constantly, evolving and compounding the knowledge. Like imagine that we didn't have anything, like we have all the fundamentals to begin with to continue creating. And it's crazy to think that without those fundamentals, it's like, who knows? Like you said with the calculus as well, it's ridiculous, man.
Dude, you know what I'm thinking about? Like dropkicks our age, we know how to use tech, we know how to consume content, we just know so much. We have so many facts on our hands. Like literally, we're aliens to people 100 years ago.
That's the thing. So, oh my God, that's crazy, because it's always a topic as well of, well, what do aliens look like, or, what do they sound like or talk like? We are literally aliens from like the future to the past. Like in that perspective, the knowledge that we hold it's ridiculous compared to the past. Like 100% would go back, and like this, like then if we started off in a prehistoric age, like I'd be completely screwed. I wouldn't know what the hell to do, right? But if you take like the basic scientific stuff that we obviously learned way back when in 8, 9, 10, etc., and like essentially build it from the ground up, it'll be fine. But Wow, that's a different way of thinking about it, an alien. I didn't think about it like that.
Dude, yeah. Like, I think, what's your thoughts on what aliens look like, Christian?
It's weird, hey, because I was listening to another podcast. I forget which, but everyone's theory or everyone's perception on aliens is literally what mainstream media or what Hollywood, essentially the film industry has told us is not told us, but the way they've portrayed it, right? So yeah, like you showed there, like E.T. prime example. Absolutely, like everyone would probably think that the aliens look like that, right? But like 100%, I think they're more advanced. Like there's 100% life out there. They're 100% more advanced than us. Oh well, it's easy to assume that, but obviously we don't know. But I think that, like, who knows what they look like? You know what I mean? Like they could just be humans as well. Like there was a program on TV when we were way younger called Silver Sun. Did you ever get around to watching Silver Sun? Did you hear about it? It was on It was old as hell, right? And it's essentially just people going.
Oh yes, I did watch this.
Yeah,
that was dope. It was dope.
Silver Sun went off, dude, and essentially like they had people in other galaxies, etc., and they were like normal people. And so I was like thinking about it that way, like it's probably normal civilization. Yeah,
I reckon like they're probably just like us, but like maybe they have like mutations, they have like different skin color, they maybe are like maybe different physique. Oh, but maybe like, you know, just like how we have animals that are completely different to Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
That it makes sense where how like other species could be like different animals. Like they're completely different. They're different colored, they have furs, and they have different genitals, they have different everything. That's possible as well. I think that's highly likely. I think them being like a monkey, the odds of that is, I reckon maybe a low, but if they're like intelligent, I don't know, maybe you could have like some freaking, have you seen those like movies or cartoons where you have like this super smart like animal, it has glasses and shit, and it's like holding like things? Maybe it's that.
That's the thing, like for all we know, aliens, like, okay, so extraterrestrial life could just be like a massive elephant who can talk and like who can walk on his 2 feet. You know what I mean? Like it could be anything. It's ridiculous, dude. Like, but like I think it would. A lot of people here, like in obviously Earth, would struggle to grasp it, and they'd struggle to grasp it as reality because this is all we've known for so long. I think it'd kick up a lot of fuss in the world, especially in the world that we live in right now, with everything terrible going on in the world. In America, etc., the protests. Just imagine if alien life was like introduced here, and like we'd obviously reject it immediately because it's something that we're not used to, something that we're not familiar with, and it's, I don't know, man. It's one of those things. It's probably why the Pentagon's so quiet. It's probably why the Pentagon's not wanting to show us, tell us anything, dude. They know.
Yeah, dude, I swear, like they probably have like a lot of info. Like I could tell, like, dude, the only reason I'd become president of like America is just to learn the secrets. Like I just want the secrets. Tell me what it is, and then I'm out.
Dude, Michelle Obama, she recently started a podcast as well, and on one of her podcasts, she said, like, she was talking about how a lot of people are asking, oh, what are you going to do as the first lady, or, you know, what is Barack going to do as president? What's the first thing you're going to do? And like a lot of people are saying, oh, are you going to find out the secrets of the Secret Service? Are you going to, you know, find out what the Pentagon does? And that's literally what I would want to know as well. I want to go in and I want to know what is going on. Like, who is placed where? What do they have? What do you know? Tell me everything you know. Like, Trump knows stuff, man. Like, president knows stuff. That's the thing, because they're the superpower, right? It's ridiculous.
Dude, I watched this documentary called The Great Hack. Crazy. I haven't even finished it, but it just talks about how much data Facebook has and how like they literally portfolioed every single type of person and ran specific ads to those type of person for them to go ahead and change their ideas and basically use propaganda, targeted propaganda. It's so scary. Where like back in the old days, propaganda was just repeating the same thing to everyone. But what if you had targeted propaganda where with all the smart people, you would have different video ads, to all the sort of farmers, you would have more farmer specific ads, and you just targeted everyone. And that's what you could do with Facebook now. It's so scary. And like that's how Trump won apparently.
Do you reckon? As in he won because
I don't think so. I think they made it like that the Facebook advertising and Facebook hacks and all that stuff really made him win. But I think that probably played a small percentage. Like I think they made it feel like that was the sole reason he won. But I think
I think that's what's going on in America at the moment with the inquisition of Google, Facebook, Amazon, etc., Alphabet. Sorry, I don't know if it was Alphabet or Google, but essentially, like, you know how the American, I don't know how American politics work, right? So, because it's completely different to here, but essentially, ask them, what do they do with the data? How are you using it? How do we know that you're not using it for malicious content, etc.? And then sharing the misinformation, and then how Facebook was suppressing political votes, or they were pushing a political agenda on Facebook. It was one of those things. But yeah, like you said, that essentially the topic of how Trump won, etc. But yeah, I don't know how it works exactly, but it's really interesting.
Dude, it's insane. Like they just have so much data. I heard in a documentary that data has become more valuable than oil. Insane. Like data is like very underpriced right now, and all these companies are just like, they just have so much data, and like eventually, like if like AI gets to a point where you could just like copy yourself into like a computer, like you could just like have all this data and just like copy like a lot of, like you could literally recreate Krishn, create like a virtual Krishn with all his data and his search history and all his like everything, his messages, and they're like, okay, this person is Krishn. It'll be pretty close mirror to you.
So then, should that happen, so essentially you're talking about like essentially uploading your consciousness, your subconsciousness, onto a database, onto say a computer system, whereby we'll just assume that it can sort their information, it can do a lot of tasks for you subconsciously, whereas you don't have to pick up a phone and make a call or do this or that. Your subconsciousness uploaded to a database or to a network can essentially read your emails or do everything for you, do the processing for you. That's ridiculous to think. That is scary. That is so scary. That's going to bring about more questions, and even more like really ethical questions in terms of, if you're uploading your psyche, your consciousness, like there's a lot of implications regarding that. That's like, imagine, because if you do that, say one of these big companies are going to be the first ones, right? Amazon, Google, Facebook. I reckon they would be one of the first ones to try and introduce something like that. And then there's going to be more questions about that, because that's ridiculous. So like, would you want, like, say Google, Facebook having control over essentially you? It's you. They have you. They possess you.
Yeah, and that's sort of what it's like now, because like they have all your like if someone has all your search history, likes, friends, messages, all your like reactions on different posts, they basically already have a replication of you already.
Oh my god.
It's crazy.
Stop it, bro. I'm gonna delete all my social media now. I'm actually gonna live under a rock.
Dude, one of my interns, he stopped using Google. He uses DuckDuckGo search.
No way.
But he's like, yeah, I don't want Google to get my data. So he uses DuckDuckGo search.
Is that, wait, I'm using Google to search up another search engine.
Yeah, it's this one. DuckDuckGo.
Wow. See, that's another thing. Because of how Google has essentially monopolized the search market in the world, I forget that there's other search engines that you can use. Like Bing, Microsoft is clinging on to Bing so hard. Like they need to let it go. Like, I don't know who uses Bing. Maybe some people that use Bing, but dude, that's actually ridiculous. DuckDuckGo. Because it's one of those things, like, it's right. You're right. Google have everything. I use Google Pay. They have my credit card details. Email. They have Gmail. They have all my personal, like essentially my work contract would be on Gmail. You use it for, what else do you use it for? You use Google for literally everything.
YouTube, you watch content.
Mm.
Yeah, it's insane.
And then if you have your passwords stored on Google, you can easily access it and everything, dude. Oh my god, this is a massive realization for me. It's just enormous.
Dude, what the hell? They own like Nest, so they have all your security cameras. They got Android. Everyone uses Android.
Android, yeah.
Man, this is crazy.
Maps,
Google Maps. Everyone uses Maps. Insane.
You can set your home location on Google Maps. They know where you live.
Yeah, they know where you travel to. But dude, talk about like duplicating yourself and everything. Like when I was young, I always craved to freaking do the Naruto shadow clone jutsu and just have tons of me. And like get a bunch of work done, have a version of me playing games, have a version of me doing homework, have a version of me doing like different subjects, one writing test papers. And like when I would play League of Legends, I would always like, I think I did pretty well, but I always thought like my team members were so like if I had 5 versions of me, I'd be like a diamond player right now. That was always one of my like childhood dreams, to like duplicate myself, shadow clone jutsu. And when each one of them would pop, all the like knowledge would combine into one.
Dude, that's like, okay, on top of what you just said, right? So I was just about to add, like the shadow clone jutsu is okay. For anyone who doesn't watch Naruto, essentially what it is each individual ninja has their own, sort of, they call it chakra, so they got their own unique power, right? So Naruto's essentially got a shadow clone, so creating a clone of himself from shadows, right? And that's his signature move. Now, the unique properties of the shadow clone is essentially, I saw one image here that was downright outrageous.
Yeah, just go past that.
Anyway, the unique property.
It was this one, guys.
So one of the unique properties of the shadow clone jutsu is essentially automation, efficiency, and in battle, it's essentially a strategic advantage. Who wouldn't want another person there, right? But also, when you use the shadow clone jutsu, any knowledge that it gains or anything that it can do, and it gains knowledge from that, once it evaporates and comes back into you, essentially, you gain that knowledge as well, right? So that's a good way of thinking about, uploading your psyche or uploading your subconsciousness into another way. It's essentially a shadow clone. You essentially have so many of yourself, and then it does things for you, and then it essentially, when you log back into the system, or when you open your phone for the day, I don't know how it would, but essentially all that knowledge would streamline to yourself, and without you even needing to lift a muscle. So essentially, the whole world can be automated. Everything, you can just be asleep, and everything would happen. And it goes back to what you said last week as well.
That's true.
You get more and more spare time, and then there's more time to be able to create new things, and with more people around you as well. Then, dude, this is...
You know what's crazy? Like, I've experienced that right now. So as I'm building teams and hiring, like literally, for example, one of my jobs for one of my students was to figure out Wix.com. I was like, one of my interns helped me build out a website, and he probably used 100% of his brain power to figure it out. And then he spent, say, 100 hours to figure it out, and within probably, say, 5 hours, he was able to transfer all his knowledge and learnings into me, import it into my brain within 5 hours. Yes, I probably don't have the same extent of his knowledge, but I was able to gain 20%, 80% with 20% of his time. So literally, it was so efficient. And then now I'm getting like interns to train other interns. Like, if I need a task done, you teach that person how to do it, and then you figure it out and you teach other people, they could teach me. So I'm able to sort of like learn, and like they're all working and I'm all learning from them. It's just crazy, like just a bunch of like clones where like obviously when they disappear, I don't get 100% of the knowledge, but they're able to pass on what they learn in a much condensed time, because you know how like when you learn something, it takes 100 hours, but you can probably teach someone in 5 hours because you spent the time learning it. So outsourcing that learning time has been like, whoa, like that's so efficient. Like hiring thinkers. That's like Elon Musk, he has like 10 companies. He doesn't do the thinking for 10 companies. He hires thinkers for him that pass up knowledge, and he sort of just knows the bigger picture.
Sponge, he absorbs it all.
Exactly. He asks a lot of questions. Like I've seen like people like, Elon Musk will just like interrogate you. It feels like it, but he's just asking questions. He asks really good questions.
I think in today's day as well, with everything automated, with search being there as well, it's really important to gain a grasp as to how things essentially work, in the sense that from their fundamentals, essentially how they work, the nitty-gritty. So if you can ask good questions, you immediately can develop your knowledge more. And going back to what you said, about having those essentially clones working for you. I don't think you in terms of like you calling them clones, but essentially, right? That's essentially, if you think about it, how all systems are founded on. That's essentially the foundation of all systems, right? You have essentially the founders of the system putting in a lot of manpower and a lot of work into it and being able to create a fully functioning self-servicing system to which you can teach that system to other people in essentially 3 hours, and then they learn and they can think about improvements. And I think that's also the foundation of what a lot of companies are built on, essentially. Like, they have that foundation, and now it's just branching it out and seeing what they can do with that foundation to, delve into different areas or see what else that they can do. And that's literally Amazon to a T. They started from scratch, obviously any company essentially.
From freaking selling books. Like, what the hell? He literally Jeff used to just pack and sell books. And he's just evolved. He's just like a whole different beast.
But
like, look at these guys.
Yeah, and a lot of people discount as well the amount of effort that goes into building these systems to be able to, transfer knowledge easier to other people as well. Like, someone's got to do it. Someone's got to stick it out for the boys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's got to be done, but yeah, Elon Musk as well. We might as well name this podcast the Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos fan club, bro. Like, these guys are just legends.
These guys are insane. Because, like, talking about, like, I understand how the rich get richer. It's because, like, when you build systems, everything just becomes you build systems to build systems to build systems.
Bang.
And it just stacks up. So, like, for example, you build systems to run your own company. Then you build systems to, like, build the next company with you. So Amazon has 2 things. Then you build the system to just consistently make companies. Then you build the systems to just continuously build conglomerates. And then, like, it's just, and that's how it compounds, and that's how, like, this guy turned into this.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like Google and Amazon are the prime examples of it, right? They've diversified their business so well to be able to monopolize the market as well as take advantage of different things that we didn't even know we needed. Could you have imagined 10 to 15 years ago, Google Maps has overtaken, like, you don't need a GPS in your car anymore. The phones that we all have probably a larger battery life than the GPS has evolved. We can just plug our phone in, Google Maps comes up, it'll take us to where we need. We didn't even know that we needed these things before.
Yeah.
And yet it's come up in such a way that it's just, I can't get over it. But see, Bezos is going to continue developing that, right? Whereas Elon Musk, I feel he's taking a little bit of a slightly different trajectory. His main priority isn't to accumulate his wealth. It's literally to, he's got different things going on, Tesla, SpaceX, etc. And that's the difference between the two. But it's interesting to see. It's like we're never going to live in a time again where we have these 2 heavyweights. Even like Microsoft are coming up big soon as well. Like I don't think Microsoft really have much other than, like, obviously Office, and they got the hardware that they're trying to push out now, a little bit of software as well. But I don't think we're ever going to live at an age where they've literally transformed how, maybe not Elon Musk so much, maybe Elon Musk is more to the future, but transformed how we go about data. Like you said last week, search is...
Yeah, it's so scary. They just have so much data and they just grow at an insane pace. Like, they just, like, and they predict what people need. Yeah, actually, no, Elon Musk really comes up with a lot of innovating ideas. Because I heard, like, following Steve Jobs, like, Apple, they never invent any new tech. Like, Samsung's always, like, 2 years ahead of time. They just follow what works and just make it way better.
I think that's what Apple are good at, in the sense that, so the new technologies that you will see, okay, let's just take the smartphone space, for example, right? So smartphones that we have today compared to, I always say 10 years ago, but even 5 years ago now, they're completely different right now. Yeah. So Apple are operating in the space where they know that they will succeed. They prioritize the aesthetic appeal of their devices. They prioritize their ecosystem. They push out as well like a lot of the Apple devices that they push out, it's mainly just ease of use, convenience. They make it so easy for you to use. Take the iPhone, for example. You have a select few apps and you press it, you know what it is. When people pick up a Samsung phone, right? or an Android phone, for example, it's obviously a little bit more difficult because of the variety of options that you have available to you in front of you, right? But that's where Apple succeed. They don't prioritize innovation. They prioritize making what the technology that's available good. Like they implement it incredibly well in their products, and that's how you see their products doing so well, because they're able to prioritize that. Whereas you have your Xiaomi, your Huawei, your Samsungs, and all the other Android-based phone companies out there, Android software using phone companies out there, they're innovating. They're trying to find out how to implement the phone front-facing camera underneath the display. They're trying to do all these things, which Apple will eventually take and implement to their products. And then people obviously won't be familiar with how, the other Chinese or other Korean companies have used these technologies in the past, but become familiar with Apple. So it's all, levels.
Less is more. That's their thing. Less is more.
So essentially the week in recap, there was a lot of things that happened this week, right? So
yeah,
starting off, essentially, it's a bit crazy in the world out there. In America, you have bushfires going on in California. Then
what?
Yeah, dude, it's getting a bit crazy. And then there's on the other side of America, I think south of America in Louisiana, there's recently Cyclone Laura or Hurricane Laura, Category 4 cyclone hit, and it's been immense flooding. So, thoughts and prayers out to anyone in America right now that's going through that. It's ridiculous, like, especially with the political and social climate of the country also in turmoil. It's ridiculous, right? So that's essentially the low part of the week. What do you see the
dude, it feels like 2020 has been like this plague, this like, I don't know what they do in the Bible, like the 12 days of like where like shit just goes crazy, and Mother Nature is just trying to cleanse Earth or just give us a signal, because right now it's crazy like how
we had bushfires, then we had flooding, or was it flooding then bushfires, and then like that was at the start of the year. And then you think about everything else that's happened this year, dude. I swear to God, this year is like a real life Jumanji. Did you watch the original Jumanji?
I have.
Every roll of the dice, every step that you take just happens. I don't know what's going on, bro. Soon that killer ranger is going to come out of nowhere, bro, and start killing people in the streets, bro. I swear to God, that Jumanji movie plays scarred me.
Oh, dude, that was a scary, like, young movie. That was not supposed for kids, dude. Like, I was scared to watch it. Like, the kid turns into a fucking monkey, and like, there's like crazy people trying to kill each other, and like the main character, what's his name? Robin Williams. He's like scared in the whole movie, and it's dark, and like it's this old school like footage, and this is like a horror movie.
It is, but the premise of it was quite interesting, because it was like, obviously, you lived through it, and literally what 2020 is, bro. 2020 is just God playing Jumanji. I swear to God, like, it's not even funny, like, far out. But no, so that's on the lesson. Obviously, this year hasn't been good for anyone, and obviously anyone affected by COVID, it's just rough. Everyone's being affected by it. But on a lighter note, going back to our best mate, Elon Musk. This morning I woke up and I woke up a bit late today, but as you do, you go on your phone. Well, I go on my phone and I check whatever happened overnight, because obviously the time difference between us and America, stuff happened, right? So I'm on YouTube, and like we spoke last week, the algorithm of YouTube is quite insane, right? It tailors to what you like, etc. I'm on YouTube and I see a live stream. Guess who's live streaming?
Who? Oh, is it the record ship?
Yeah, SpaceX.
Yeah.
SpaceX live streaming.
What happened?
I watched it. It was ridiculous, dude. Like, because I know they've done it before, but essentially this is like the first time I've ever watched it on live stream, right? And it's crazy to think, like, before it was obviously always televised, but on a live stream, hearing people from SpaceX obviously commentate over it was ridiculous. So they launched a Falcon 9 rocket, and it was SAOCOM 1B. So they were launching essentially a satellite into space, which will be orbiting. They essentially launched as a satellite into orbit, right? Yeah, SAOCOM 1B. So what happened is essentially this satellite that they're launching is for It's used for soil moisture, so it's going to be used by Argentina primarily, and it essentially provides competitiveness and help to the agriculture sector, whereby it provides early flood warnings and it just helps with the agriculture sector a lot for Argentina primarily, right? So I think it starts off a little bit later where they show the launch, right? So the rocket launches and it's all fine, but it's the way that it's able to launch and then re-land. It lands itself back down again. Like it was just insane to see. Like the first
Dude,
one,
it sounds insane.
SAOCOM 1A was launched in 2018, and this is 1B. So 2 years later, the total cost of it is 600 million. Now, this rocket that you see, Falcon 9, this particular rocket, I think, has been reused 4 times.
Damn.
A literal rocket going into space being reused. And the estimated useful life of this rocket, so they can estimate that it can be used up to 100 times over with significant refurbishments and improvements on it. But without significant refurbishments, just like, a little bit of tweaking here and there, just making sure that it's fit for use, essentially up to a maximum of 50 times.
What? This is insane. Dude, in like America, like in San Francisco, people would like watch these. Like we would go to like piers where you could see it, you would watch it, it would be like a whole event. And we would see rocket ships just fly randomly. It's like, that's probably Elon Musk's shit. But like, dude, I'm reading Elon Musk's book, and like building SpaceX was very difficult. Like they built it from scratch. They went through so much hardships to get to where they are.
And obviously, like you said, this goes back onto what we were saying earlier about the systems. Obviously, Big Muskie did not have the rocket science engineering in his brain. Obviously, he got the people who had the foundations, he got whoever he needed, sold his vision to them. They're like, yep, sweet, keen, let's do it. And they've built a reusable rocket. Obviously, the technology isn't there for space exploration yet. At the moment, it's obviously being primarily used for launching satellites into orbit, etc. But it was like, to the dot, time to perfection. It was crazy to see, especially the relaunch. So, obviously, they got the boosters going on at the specific times, and then
this is crazy.
They got I think they
It
released.
looked like a toy. Like when it was like, what the hell? It looks like a little toy that's gone up, but then you remember it's this giant thing, and it's just gone faster and faster, and somehow like it stays straight and doesn't just go like.
That's the thing, right? So so we learn all about everything is timed and detailed down to perfection, the mass of it, etc. So like they obviously need the orbital velocity to be able to launch that satellite into its continual orbit, and then needs the escape velocity as well, right? So, and then for it to essentially be up in the air, and like when I think of it, right, I think of the rocket being launched, and I think of it essentially being in free fall. I can just see it just free falling down. But the way they do it is they have the boosters, and then I think they release gas in certain ways to pivot it, to keep it upright, and then essentially on landing, it's ridiculous. It is insane.
Does it have like? Do you reckon it has AI to like on the way down? Like, does it use AI to like balance itself out, or is it pre-planned?
I think AI would seem the best sort of way to go about it. I honestly don't know, but see, so right now what you're seeing is
insane.
To anyone that's not obviously watching on YouTube, just listening, so we're just watching a clip of the satellite essentially being launched into orbit. So you have the satellite going off on one direction, and you have the essentially the vehicle for the satellite, the rocket itself, just staying there, and it's eventually going to come down. So I don't know, man, it's ridiculous. But
it's like a parachute. No, it's like a hot air balloon type of thing.
Yeah. So see, the satellite's got its own burners to make sure it keeps going, obviously to reach orbital velocity. So a funny story about this particular launch. So this particular launch was launched on the East Coast, I think, and it's the first time a rocket has launched from this site since 1960. Now, the last time a rocket was launched from this particular site was during the Cold War, and America was trying to gain surveillance on Russia by launching a sneaky rocket, as you do, launching a rocket, launching a satellite, and it would essentially be hovering over Russia or whoever they're up against. I think it was pretty much Russia, right? Essentially just gaining, it was an intelligence satellite, so gaining data, etc., or whatever they were doing, right? The rocket essentially failed, right? And they call it a launch corridor. When they launch, rockets in a specific corridor so that should there be an unfortunate event of an emergency or a failure, what happens is if it's within the launch corridor, it's fine, because if it blows up, it essentially falls into like nothing, just a vacant land.
Yeah.
Right? That makes sense. But in 1960, what happened is, I think the rocket was like halfway to like going over somewhere, and it was essentially over Cuba. And what happened is that something went wrong, and they had to, cancel the rocket or something. And essentially, parts of the rocket fell over Cuba, etc. And one of the parts hit a cow in Cuba. And America had to pay Cuba like $2 million or something to compensate for them for the rocket falling into their land or whatever, because Cuba was threatening to give the rocket to Russia or something, and then sell it off to China, etc. So America was like, here's $2 million, I'm sorry. And it's like fable that cow is the most expensive cow in the world. I was reading that. Oh, it was pretty fun. Yeah, so
there's the same time, like there's so many moving parts in this, like so many things are being let go, like it's insane. Like,
yeah,
did they like launch rockets before humans? Like, was the Cold War before the moon race? Like, or did we just go straight to putting humans in rocket ships going straight to the moon? Like, this is insane.
That's what the Cold War was about, essentially. It was the race to the moon, right? So during that time, they obviously, I think America were trying to gain it. Okay, can you see the release of gas onto the land?
I do. This is insane.
They're repositioning it. They're trying to reposition it perfectly. And dude, it fell exactly on the landing site.
Is it falling? It looks like it's just floating right now, unless it's just moving so fast.
Can you see the timeline there? The semicircle at the bottom. I think so. I don't know when exactly. I think it might be soon. But can you see it's slowly like lowering itself?
I do.
Yeah.
It's insane. The altitude is like dipping-ish. No, that's for the other one. That's insane.
Yeah, so this is launched on the East Coast. And yeah, like I've never been so intrigued and amazed by this. Like okay, see, it's entering the atmosphere, so they got the burners back on. Damn. They're bringing it down, yep. There we go.
David Blaine is doing this thing where his arm is hooked into a bunch of balloons and he's just going to be floating up.
Has he done that, or is he about to do it?
He's about to do it. So it was supposed to be done like yesterday or tomorrow. Yesterday, a few days ago. But due to weather, he couldn't do it. Because with bad weather, he might just literally blow off like somewhere far, far away. So they need a day that's like not windy. But like that's pretty crazy. And he needs to be able to he's going to go to a height where it's hard to breathe. So he'll have to like hold his breath or do like breath work. Like,
yeah.
Like it's going to be like...
Yeah, and it's like essentially training to go to climb a mountain. Essentially, you need to obviously prepare yourself, given that the change in altitude will affect your breathing. But that guy, I don't know what he's planning. Like, what happens when you're up there and your last balloon just goes pop, and then what? Like, you just come flying back down. Like, is someone just gonna put out safety mats and gymnastic mats everywhere, so that when he falls, he's all sweet.
The scariest thing is when you're up there, he's like blown like left and right. So he literally has no idea where he's gonna land. And he has a parachute, so like in one of the balloons, he's gonna take a parachute, put on the parachute, and he's gonna skydive down. But like, what if you're just in a neighborhood, like a city? Like, he's gonna have to somehow find a place to land.
Yeah.
Like, insane. But this is, this is crazy.
It's landed. Look at that. In the same spot that it launched from. That's mental. If you're at home and you're listening to this on Spotify, or if you're watching it on YouTube, thank you for watching along with us. Shout out. But if you're listening on Spotify, dude, like, go and watch. Like, don't watch the whole thing, obviously. Just go and watch snippets of it. Like, it's ridiculous a thing. I don't think anyone can like really grasp how ridiculously amazing this is. A reusable rocket that they've launched. So they've just launched a satellite to orbit. They've brought the same rocket back down. They're going to fix it up and be like, yeah, good to go for next week, mate. Or like, good to go for the next couple of months or something. Far out. That is the future. This is the future. So like, that's the difference between Big Muskie and Big Bezos at the moment. You know, we got two different worlds, but one's for the future, one's building his net worth, and that's where we're at now. That's the
Yeah.
world.
There's some people who say that like Elon Musk is like, I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson. It was like Elon Musk is like literally the Tesla, or like I don't know who else he compared it to, of our world, where he's like literally creating change and innovation, whereas like the Mark Zuckerbergs and Larry Page, which is the CEOs and founders of Google, and Jeff Bezos, like the things they do, it's not too impactful. Like Elon Musk is like a freak of nature, like literally, like he's a freak of nature.
He's breaking boundaries. He's breaking so many boundaries, but people don't realize it. Because if Elon Musk did not do this, okay, like let's think about it. If Elon Musk did not do this, if he did not go about SpaceX and space exploration, who would have done it? Who would have thought, okay, let's do reusable rockets? No, saying no one is a little bit of like I agree. I don't know who could have, but I think it would have, like, he's brought what would have been done like 50 years down the line, or maybe 100 years to now. Like it's mental, dude. It's mental. I just can't get over it.
Dude, when I like am reading the Elon book biography every night, it's like, I need to think bigger. Like this guy's on some next level scale. It just makes me like, for example, right now I want to innovate the education space. Like I want to literally create one of the best online marketing programs ever. And like, dude, like that's so small. But then at the same time, it makes me want to like master this in such a small amount of time, so I can move on to the next thing. Because like Elon Musk is like literally building fucking space, electric cars, digging holes under tunnels. Like, oh my game soon. But then again, I could literally go down the Jeff Bezos route and just like go all in on education, think about AI, like talk about like how to like turn everyone into entrepreneur. But then like that's like one way where you just go all in on like selling books, and then you become like this crazy conglomerate.
It's quite interesting to think, especially given that in the space that you're in, having two big figureheads, or maybe a lot more than two, right? But at the moment, when you're thinking about technology in the world, you think about these two big boys, right? And you're right. You're exactly right in thinking about it. You have the opportunity. Quick shout out, anyone that's listening, go check Andy out. Go check his content out. Go on the website, click that link. If you're interested in dropshipping, check it out right now.
Thank you.
But what could happen is, you're right. You could do what you're doing now, finish it up, move on to the next thing. Think bigger. Think huge, or really monopolize the market in Australia, or however big you obviously plan to go. Really, because at the moment you've been working really hard in your business, and I've seen it grow from what it was at the start of the year to obviously now, right? Obviously there's been a lot of change. A lot of people don't know how hard you've worked on that business and how much change has happened in it, right? But you're right. Like, you have the opportunity to do that. You have the opportunity to become your Bezos, or essentially, I would like, obviously, when you think of Elon Musk, in the sense that obviously, what's a new thing? You know, what's a new thing that you can get into? What's a new thing that you can try and break down and become reality? But ridiculous.
Dude, on that topic, I was recently listening to this other podcast. He was, I don't know who he is, but he has this book called like, I don't know, bringing something to zero. Basically, using all your money so that when you die, you have $0 in your bank account. Because it's like, what's the point of dying and having millions in your bank account or in net worth? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And what's the point of giving it to your children? Like, you literally want to somehow just spend it all before you die. Like, if you build up billions in net worth, like, what's the point when you die? And that really got me thinking. He has a point. Like, dude, like, what if you just keep saving money and you just die with all this money? And then he talks about being optimizing the experience for your age, being able to do everything that you can't do in your 40s but can do in your 30s. Do those things. Don't like keep stacking it up. Like, usually I'm always like pulling the slingshot back, and every time I get a win and like I can let go, I pull it back further. Every time I get like a boost, I pull it back further. Usually I should be releasing it, but then I just keep pulling it. But obviously that's like a one-to-one sort of sample. Like, it's not true. Like, you're able to have the best of both worlds, where you're constantly pulling it back and leveraging the future, but then you're also doing things like traveling, enjoying yourself, eating out, hanging out with friends. So I do have a bit of both worlds, but like, the guy has he has a point. Like, what's the point of dying with all this net worth?
And that's a very interesting way to think about it, because obviously with anything, there's always different schools of thought and different trains of thought attached with it. And I think to rebut that, not rebut, but provide a different perspective. Obviously, if you have a family and obviously if you've accumulated a decent amount of net worth, obviously, in my perspective, a decent amount of net worth would be a lot less than what you'd perceive it to be, right? Or what anyone else perceive it to be. But it's perspective. Everything's perspective. So obviously, I would think about, not I, but like a person, a regular person, maybe just think about providing for their family. So there's always that two schools of thought, two different perspectives, or many different perspectives on it. Like, it really depends on the person. Obviously, I 100% like. I think, bro, if you have an accumulated net worth of X amount of dollars and you die with that, bro, do you know how many problems that's going to cause for the family, dude? Family, I don't know that's just going to cause problems for the family in the future. Be like, oh no, I want this man. Oh, it's just ridiculous, dude. I can just see it happening.
Dude, you know what I'm excited for? Like, I'm so lucky that we have people that are ahead of us that we can watch and learn from. Like, I'm excited to see what happens when Jeff Bezos dies and he just has like $500 billion lying around. Like, does it just somehow keep in Amazon? Does it just get liquid and he just donates it all? And like, when he donates it all, what's going to happen? Does the world just become like lifted? Like, is the world on steroids for a period of like 10 years with like 500 billion added to like the GDP of like the world? Like, what's going to happen? And then like, that's definitely something we can learn from. But dude, like, check the time. Time flew.
50. Oh my goodness, and that's a wrap, man. That's episode 2. Thank you guys for listening to Andy and I just start from a couple of topics and just come to 55 minutes.
Thank you guys, I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys are liking this. I really want to get your feedback. Let me and Krishn know what your thoughts are. Krishn, where can they reach out to you from?
Like I said last week, my Instagram handle, it's my first name, so KRISHN, followed by another 2 N's, P at Instagram. So yeah, hit us up. Like, we'd appreciate all the feedback. Obviously, if you're listening on Spotify, wherever you're listening on, just let us know any topics that you'd like us to talk about as well. Let us know. If you disagree with some of the things you said, let us know. If you don't like us, let us know.
Thank you guys, really appreciate everyone's time. Please hit the subscribe button, please follow, give me a rating on, if you're on Apple, if you're listening to this on podcast, Google Store, Apple Store, please give us a rating, really appreciate it. But yeah, this is officially the flip side. We'll be seeing you guys next week, and thank you so much for doing this with me, Krishn. Peace out, guys.
Peace out. See you next episode.